tram site. He's right. You know, I went to Northeastern because of the work study program. Because,
That's
I came
what
from,
that
right?
was my thing.
Yeah, I came from a middle class family, and I was able to go to school, and then I came back and worked. And I remember taking the subway, then taking the bus, and then walking from the bus. And my kids hate this story, Mr. Speaker, because I told them I would take the subway, and I would take then I would bring me to the bus station. I'd walk from the bus station to my house, and then I'd reverse it when I had to go back to school. And my kids hate to hear that story, as well as the story I tell them when I used to have to walk to grammar school in the snowstorm. They hate hearing that as well. We are now recording live, and which means that this is now an important program of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it'll be on all our social media programs. And again, we want to say thank you once again to our state representatives and to our speaker. The speaker, as I mentioned earlier, has never failed to be part of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. He truly understands business. He truly understands business development. He understands what the small business community is facing, and he understands what we're trying to do as a chamber to assist the business and also our communities. And I want to say a special thank you to the members of the chamber that are on this webinar, and also to the state representatives, as I mentioned, to our mayor. One of our mayors is with us, Jim Farentini, and also to all the business people. If this were an in-person program, this would be packed with people. We had the same discussion the other day with respect to the labor secretary discussion. The in-person programs don't bring as many people out in the very beginning, but they do seem to watch it later on. And Mr. Speaker, it is by no means an indication of the lack of interest. It's simply that I'm starting to think that people are getting zoomed out. I'm sure you are, and all the reps are, because it's like they're spending their whole day on Zoom. So Michael has left the room. He's online, so which means that he's trusted me now to go forward. And Mr. Speaker, I truly want to say thank you. We know the things you're doing. You could be anywhere else and doing so many other meetings, but we want to say thank you. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts. So without further ado, please welcome our keynote speaker. And then, as Rayanne mentioned, after you speak, Mr. Speaker, if any of our state reps would like to say a word or comment at all, we'll entertain any of our state representatives, because they are truly partners. And I say this, Mr. Speaker, to all our members whenever we're in a public meeting. We don't just see our state representatives at programs like this or when it's time for a photo. We talk to their offices all the time, and that's critically important, because we never know, as you know, Mr. Speaker, we never know when a business has a question. We never know when they have a problem, and we have to go to them and help our business people, and they're always responsive. And I want to say thank you again to, and if you don't mind, I can use their first name. I want to say thank you to those that are here today, because that's critically important to us, Mr. Speaker. If they said to us, well, fill out a form, call us back, we'll get you in 2 weeks. That never happens. They call us right away. They come to our events. We're able to talk to them in person, and it makes a huge difference. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that's the guidance you provide. So without further ado, let's welcome our keynote speaker, the Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo. Welcome, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you once again for that kind introduction. And you're always terrific. And you're right. Since I have been Speaker, I've been doing this each and every year.
That's right.
I look forward to it each and every year. Seth and I were talking, we even know what we eat
That's right.
At the event and everything, and everyone is so great to talk to. And but this is our new reality. And with that, as we all know, we have to adjust and pivot to that new reality. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Just so everyone knows, I want to say since the beginning of the year, we've tried to arrange to try to get this done personally. But
we've tried 3 times.
We've tried 3 times and we've changed it. And finally we said, well,
yes.
We can't change.
And Mr. Speaker, not to interrupt you, I want to say thank you, because your office could have said, look, we tried, we can't do it. We'll come back next year, but you didn't. You kept saying, what dates? Can I give you a date? And I want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'd have to say that finding ways to incorporate our traditions that perform vital functions while addressing new challenges is something that we are all now doing. When the pandemic struck, I was very honored that the House took prompt action to pass emergency legislation to address key needs for all of our municipalities, provide flexibility on MCAS requirements, give release to tenants and to landlords, and I should say homeowners, allow remote notarizations, and create new tools for our restaurant owners. We've had to refashion practices of our institution to hold, for the first time ever in close to 400 years, that we've held our formal sessions remotely. Think about that. First time in 400 years that we've done that in Massachusetts. Moving the tax deadline required a special borrowing measure in a formal vote. Employing the ingenuity that our institution is known for, we figured out that while prioritizing public health and meaningful access for House members, none of this has been easy, but it's been necessary. I'd have to say how grateful I am to our colleagues in the House for their steadfast work and energy during this crisis. I salute the members of the delegation, including Representatives Campbell, Devers, Kalkos, Minicucci, Moran. By the way, Frank, if you are watching, I hope you're feeling better. Wynn and Vargas, for their efforts during this incredibly difficult time when new challenges seem to crop up on a daily basis. And Joe, you had mentioned earlier, you talked about delegations, and you talked about how wonderful the delegation of the Merrimack Valley is. I want to echo that. And I'm going to come off of some of the remarks that I was, the script, so to speak, because I think it's important enough to let the people who may be watching out there know how hard that this delegation works. You know, it's an interesting combination of folks. We have some who've been in a while, now serving in leadership position in chairs. We've had a group that the Merrimack Valley has recently had elected the last election. I say they're new members, but quite frankly, they seem to come to this place hitting the ground running. They're not afraid to express their opinions. They're not afraid to express in terms of how they feel and how they feel that they can help, you know, Merrimack Valley. And they've brought in many of these new members, new, fresh ideas in terms of how we can do things better in the state. And I'd be remiss if I also didn't talk about the good working relationship that we have as Democrats and Republicans here
not like Washington
in the House, unlike Washington and unlike other places that we get things done. So let me just throw in, first of all, a real heartfelt thank you to them. And this is off script. It's just the way I feel. The people in the Merrimack Valley have sent to the State House great elected officials. I also want to thank all of our essential employees, by the way, as well. Our first responders, our grocery and cleaning people, our public safety workers, public work staff, and medical personnel. These are the people who are courageously making sacrifices to help to heal others. Our system of government really leaves it to the executive branch the job of closing and opening the economy in the wake of emergencies. However, that does not mean that we as members of the House don't have a place in terms of what we're doing relative to COVID-19 and other issues that we have. It is our role as members of the House to put Massachusetts in a better position, if you will, to work our way out of this unprecedented challenge. To facilitate this process, I've asked Leader Mariano to chair and Leader Wagner to vice chair the Commonwealth Resiliency and Recovery Special Committee. And this is a group of House members who will work together to identify the state's key legislative priorities as it relates to our recovery. While their normal legislative process continues stronger than ever, and our chairs are hard at work, this group is vetting bills. The special committee will be in place to convene broader discussions and to think us through the interdisciplinary policy ideas. It's always been my opinion, and I believe it's an opinion that's shared by the members of the Merrimack Valley delegation, that even though we may be in a COVID-19 situation, and those are some of the major issues that we have to deal with, we're not stopping our work. We're not stopping our other work that we felt when we started the session that we had to get done. We didn't just say, okay, we're just dealing with this terrible pandemic and everything else is going to have to wait for 2 years. I'm very proud to say that we've been able, and I'll talk a little bit later about some of the things that, in addition to that, that we have done. The budget remains to be a very difficult task. And I'm not just talking about because we're doing things remotely now, but just to give you and the audience some idea in terms of what we've been dealing with. We start our budget process back in December. We started at a time and we have some of the top economists and other experts in the field come out and tell us what we should expect, shall we say, in the coming year. What does it look like? What are we going to be able to spend in terms of money? And then in January, the governor provides for sets forth his budget and presents it to the full house, and then we take over from there. And I'd have to say, from when we started and where we are right now, we're in a lot different situation than what we heard from the experts back in December. Right now, I'd have to say we've heard estimates of anywhere from $2 to $6 billion deficits that we face here in Massachusetts, and I speak to my colleagues throughout the country, and it's happening throughout the country. It's not just Massachusetts, obviously. And probably most of the latest figures that we have gotten are probably closer to the $5 to $6 billion. I sincerely hope that those who are predicting the $5 to $6 billion are wrong, and that the $2 billion will be the correct one. But I don't see that. In addition to that, our job situation. Before this pandemic had started, Massachusetts probably had, if not the highest, one of the highest rates of employment out of any state in the country. Now, unfortunately, there was a time when we were the highest of unemployment in this country. Thankfully, this past couple of weeks, things have improved. We've fallen back some 5 percentage points so that we're not as high as we once were in terms of unemployment, but still higher than we would like. And while we look to Washington for help and your congressperson people, I guess, with Trahan and Moulton, I believe.
Yes.
That covers
Yes.
complete. And we've worked very well with them, and we are grateful for their earlier emergency legislation, the ongoing support we've received from the congressional delegation. But it appears to be right now, especially, and this is not a reflection on our senators, Markey or Warren, as we're looking to seek help, the Senate, United States Senate, seems to be reluctant, shall we say, to be of assistance to us. And so that's what we've been waiting on right now. I'd have to say that it's somewhat puzzling to me that in this time where many states are struggling, whether the so-called Democratic states or Republican states or whatnot, that the environment in Washington has not been good in the Senate in terms of providing some much needed funds. And what further concerns me now is that with the terrible passing of Justice Ginsburg, I feel like all the attention is going to, and to a certain extent, rightfully so, that we pay attention to the appointment of the next justice of the Supreme Court. I think that in many cases is going to be used as an excuse of why some of the members of the federal government aren't helping out our cities and towns. The fact remains that in just 1 month, our revenue went from a surplus to a significant shortfall. And with that, some, uncertainty to remain. And with that, I'd have to say, once we set forth a schedule in terms of running sessions, I had stated that I would never vary from that, whether it was a chair of Ways and Means or now as Speaker of the House. I always said that, if that's the date, if we got a budget date, if we got a deadline for this, then we have to show the people that we're doing the people's work and we're going to meet those dates. But now, because of what has happened, we took a vote and we're going past the July 31st deadline to make sure that we get things done, especially, that we're going to have to eventually deal with our budget. We're now under a 3-month budget, which will expire in October. So now I think it's October 7th. The chairs of Ways and Means in both the House and the Senate, as well as the Secretary of Administration and Finance, are going to be meeting with those same folks to get the latest information in terms of where we are economically in this state. And we're trying to get good numbers so that we can see exactly what it's going to take to meet this fiscal challenge that we're facing. And I'd like to thank the Chair of Ways and Means, Chair Michaelwitz, and thank him for his steady hand throughout this process. I can appreciate when he first came to me and said, it's very difficult to do a budget when you don't have the correct figures, or you don't know what the figures are, and I'm doing nothing but making a guesstimate at best. And actually, it's more than a guess. And it was at that time that I said, then we have to do what we have to do. We have to delay the process until we see exactly or close in terms of what we have in terms of figures. In addition to that, so they'll be holding that in October 7th, I think it is. In addition to that, I think one of the other issues that we have to be concerned about is how long this is going to last. Many people talk about right now that we should just take all of our rainy day fund, which we're so proud of the fact that we've got one of the best stabilization funds in the entire country because of the hard work of the members I'm speaking to here today. But we don't know what's going to happen, whether it's fiscal year 21, 22, how long it is that we're going to have to depend upon those funds. I'd have to say, in addition, as I mentioned earlier, we haven't stopped in terms of some of our business that we had intended to do. And we're continuing to pursue our policy priorities through the conference committees right now. And we're dealing with economic development bill, which we've passed, climate legislation, which we passed, transportation legislation, which we passed, and healthcare legislation, just to name a few that we have passed that are presently in committee. And what's interesting about the healthcare field, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, is the fact, when people say, is there anything much positive that you can talk about? Sometimes when you go through a difficult situation, you learn something and you're able to address it in the future in a better or a different fashion. And I'd have to say that if I had a look at healthcare, probably one of the things that I have found anyways has been the issue of telemedicine, in terms of how well I think anyways it worked during the COVID-19, and how well I can see that as a tool for our hospitals and health centers in the future. And I know that once we were able to proceed, and I know that some of your chamber's priorities, such as regional economic development organization grants, are important. And I've heard that loudly and clearly from your delegation on a number of occasions. But even as we, again, work to meet the tremendous fiscal challenges we face, we remain committed to our core principles in supporting folks as they navigate to work remotely. We understand also that a key component of the recovery is access to quality childcare. Supporting early education program has always been a key priority of the House. Our early education and care business advisory group recommended a multi-year plan for targeting investments that strengthen our early education efforts here in Massachusetts, which resulted in the House providing more than $60 million in unprecedented increases to support early education, workforce, and improve programs for the most at-risk children. As the current health crisis has shown, access to early education and care is not only vital for supporting children, but is also vital to supporting our economy. In recognition of this and to help address challenges COVID-19 poses for programs, the House Education and Economic Development Chairs, Alice Peisch and Ann Margaret Ferrante, have overseen an early education and care recovery advisory group to ensure businesses and providers are prepared to support families and workers in this new and changing landscape. This group is looking at how the current crisis and health protocols are impacting childcare, examining the financing models for programs amid tremendous change, and exploring the effect that the pandemic has had on programs in communities of color and those throughout the sector in order to help inform them of our next step. Through their work, the House established the Early Education and Care Public-Private Trust Fund in the most recent supplemental budget, which we did, creating an infrastructure to foster public, private, and philanthropic efforts for supporting child care providers funded at $500,000, with hopes that it will attract and leverage additional private and philanthropic support for early education programming. Just as employees navigate how the pandemic is changing childcare, they also need to have a sense of how it will affect their transportation options, including access to safe and reliable public transportation. It may seem like years ago now, but this session, the House was proud to take bold action to raise much needed revenue for our transportation system. Many warned me that you can't do that in an election year, that it's too politically difficult. But the House, I'd have to say, has never shied away from tough decisions or heavy lifting when action is necessary. And that was also the case with transportation as well. I'm so proud of the work that our team has done, the members have done, to build a plan that not only just talks about the MBTA, but talks about the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts in terms of funding. It's not just the T, it's the RTAs, it's the transit, train traffic, transit, from the Merrimack Valley into Boston and the like, that we were very, very, concerned about. Now, having done this and having received this overwhelming vote of support for our plan, we all know what happened. It was about a week later, after we had passed this legislation, legislation, which I just want to say another thing about, because I'm so very proud of our members for what they did, was the fact that for a couple of years or so, at least now, we always felt that we really weren't doing enough relative to public transportation, and that we had to do more. In that many people were saying, you know, again, put it off for a year, and you know, you don't need to do it now. And I'm so proud to see exactly that we took the, you know, the bull by the horns, and that we acted. But what had happened, obviously, that the ground shifted beneath us again with the terrible pandemic. Well, we saw an historic drop in ridership on public transit and a vast reduction in traffic congestion almost overnight. But make no mistake that the transportation problems and the infrastructure needs remain, and now are thrown into sharp focus as the state continues its reopening process. Our workforce relies on mass transit. It needs to have confidence that the transportation system is going to be safe and that it's going to be reliable. And again, given the uncertainty, I should say, we will work with Chair Strauss as we focus on the T. We focus on the RTAs and the commuter rails efforts. That's what I was trying to get out earlier, commuter rails, to have a workable system amidst a public health crisis. We also know that we can't take our eye off the ball when it comes to capital planning and long-term revenue plan. Amid a very difficult fiscal climate, the House voted to keep Chapter 90 level funded at $200 million for key repairs for maintenance and upkeep of our municipal roads and our municipal bridges in Massachusetts. While the focus is now on timing and implementation of changes, the House is committed to the thoughtful strategy for the long-term needs of our transportation system. Central to our economic recovery, and I think we're learning this more and more each and every day, will be the prospects of helping our small businesses. No corner of the sector has been affected by the pandemic, I believe anyways, more than our restaurants. Even before the pandemic, supporting our restaurants was a concern of the House. Just last year, before this whole situation had started, the House created the Restaurant Promotion Commission, an entity that we created in our budget. And it was with the help of Chair McMurtry that this group was ready to release its plans in March. Then COVID-19 upended everything. Given that the commission's, I believe, mission is more vital than it ever was before, we are repurposing this group as the Restaurant Recovery Commission now to provide a voice for restaurants as they recover, they confront, I should say, the challenges of social distancing and the life in terms of COVID-19. In June, the House passed a legislative package to waive the meals tax interest on late payments, ease outdoor dining restrictions, expand alcohol delivery options to include mixed drinks, extend the takeout options to the end of the year, and cap the amount that can be charged by a food delivery service. I want to thank again Chair Michaelwitz and McMurtry, Chan, and Gregoire, and Vice Chair Day for their efforts on this bill. And while we are grateful to the Senate for acting on the takeout of the cocktails, the rest of the package that I had just mentioned, we are anxiously awaiting their action. It's important for us to work with restaurants. So when this is over, we have a healthy businesses to provide jobs for our residents. And as we take a long look at the view of the crisis we have been battling, we have faith in our states and in its foundational industries, such as manufacturing. Whether it was during the days of the Lawrence's great factories and mills at the foundation of the industrial age, computers and defense post-World War II, advanced manufacturing in the wake of the 2008 economic downturn, Massachusetts has played a key role in the national and world story of manufacturing. The House of Representatives has been very proud of the part that we have played in that storied history, and we will be proud to lead manufacturing back into the future. When challenged, Massachusetts manufacturers have always answered the call. At peak production during World War II, when America faced Japan and Nazi Germany, for example, the Fall River shipyard could produce an aircraft carrier in 14 days. The House has historically championed Mass MEP, which has received $2 million annually in our budgets for many years, and will look to support the partnership's efforts as it helps manufacturers in today's fights and tomorrow's. There is no question that the challenges that surround Massachusetts right now, as we fight 3 battles simultaneously. We fight the battle against COVID-19 pandemic. We fight the battle for racial justice. And we fight the battle to restore our economy. Even with these challenges, we have faith in the resilient spirit and innovative core of our state. I know your local hospitals and healthcare facilities, such as Lawrence General Hospital, Holy Family, Lowell General, and Anna Jakes, as well as your local community health centers, have been leading the fight on the front lines against COVID-19. Facilities like these and the healthcare workers they employ deserve our utmost respect and our support. We know that the healthcare industry continues to struggle with the influx of patients, ensuring the safety and well-being of its employees with insufficient access to PPE and medical supplies, and with the limitations on medical practice. We know that to maintain stability within the healthcare industry, this will be a key piece of our recovery process. Our healthcare institutions and our colleges and universities have not only stepped up in a major way to care for the residents of the Commonwealth as the virus has ravaged communities, but they are also on the cutting edge of research and best practices for how to tackle this disease. Massachusetts is still America's laboratory of ideas. I am confident that somewhere in the labs and workspaces in our region, there are ingenious scientists and tech staff, including those trained in biological sciences program right at the University of Massachusetts in Lowell, who may find the key to unlock key treatments and perhaps a vaccine that is going to fight this virus. We help the incredible life sciences cluster flourish in our region, and it has a promise to rescue the world. It was not an accident. It took imagination, it took creativity, and it took persistence. But that should be no surprise for anyone. I am confident in Merrimack Valley's ability to respond to the challenges that we face ahead, as your communities have also faced the unprecedented circumstances of rebounding after the gas explosions of 2018. You, more than any other probably region in our state, have the ability to be nimble and come back stronger than ever. And in addition to obviously the local representatives and senators and the state delegation, I also like to call out the works of our mayor, whether it's Fiorentini or Rivera, your town managers, your councilors, select people, and municipal employees for all their work, which they have done since that terrible explosion. One can wonder how I can be so confident in this region and state when things look so grim. I was first elected to the House during a fiscal crisis, followed by a recession. I served in the House during the dot-com bust and 9/11. I became speaker during the low point of the financial crisis in 2009. Each and every time, I have seen us take a step back, work together, and confront the challenge. And I have faith in our state. I know in my heart, we are Massachusetts, and we will be back. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention. Hopefully I didn't talk too long.
So much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You did fine. We really enjoyed your comments, and when you mentioned the boom of the dot era, you know, we had it here in Andover, and it came and it went so fast. It was amazing. So we understand that so much. Thank you. What we'd like to do, Mr. Speaker, before we ask any questions, is ask if any of the representatives want to make a comment. Rayanne can coordinate that. So if you'd like to speak or say any words, please unmute yourself, and Rayanne can help you do that. So do any of the reps like to say any words or comments at all, or if not, we'll go to the questions.
Linda has unmuted herself.
Linda, do you want to say anything? Representative Campbell?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Very quickly, I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, you gave Joe a run for his money.
No one gives Joe a run for his money. And by the way, I'm not sure where you are, but it looks like a whole lot better place than where any of the rest of
Oh, I'm out in my backyard because, you know, my husband's very loud in his meetings. I have a dog, and my office is what it is. So this is, you know, I hope this continues for a while, this weather. But I just want to just very, very quickly, you know, I want to thank you for your steady leadership, because I think that the economy certainly there's been more uncertainty here than there was really during the Great Depression. You know, that we had a lot more certainty from the federal government in terms of where we were going to go and how we were going to get there and how we were going to fund all of the things that we need to do at the state level where the rubber meets the road. And that is not present. So I want to thank you for your steady leadership. And you know, up here in the Merrimack Valley and also Revere and other communities, we're not out of the woods with COVID yet. And that focus has been really helpful as we continue through the fall. And just to add to, you know, the discussion on the economy, the data points that we have received as a result of this tragedy have given, you know, the House a tremendous amount of information to work with, which is being approached on a multidisciplinary level. So, you know, the need for more support for our essential workers, the need for more access to healthcare in community hospital settings, the need for more access to healthcare across the board. We have data that we have now that, you know, some the House leaders are working in a multidisciplinary way to address some of these as we move forward, and that work is ongoing. And, you know, in addition to the major pieces of legislation that we've already passed. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I'll wrap up by also, Joe, just saying that the information that you put out to the community has been data. It has been actual information where people can apply for grants, where people can understand the nitty-gritty of the legislation. It has not been puff and fluff, and it has been greatly appreciated.
Well, you know, Representative and Mr. Speaker, and I want to just say that you mentioned the Economic Development Program grants, however you want to refer to them. We do real things with that money. I mean, we've done, and Rayanne has helped with Michael. We've sent out 85 advisories, information that we filter from the state and from the SBA, from the federal government, and we put it in English, and we send it to our members. We've done 85 advisories, webinars, or actual programs on business assistance since we were locked down. So that's what we do. And that's just an example, as Linda knows, we and the representatives know, we do real things with that. And we have had comments come from businesses, large and small, from defense manufacturers who said, we get the technical information from our national associations, but we get what's happening in the state from you. We get people, our small business say, I have no one else to turn to. You're the one that provided that information. So thank you for all your support on those grants that the chamber gets, and hopefully.
And I can't believe how important that is. I must tell you that I hear from my local chambers quite a bit. So I have to congratulate you for doing that, because you're right. How it comes across may not be as clear to businesses. They need that guidance in terms of what they can and what they can't do and whatnot, especially in this time.
And Mr. Speaker, they're doing their business. They're trying to stay in live. They're trying to stay and do their business. So they don't have the time to read all this information, but the information we're able to send them filters down. Plus, Michael and I actually go meet with them in person and convey that information and explain it to them. So we do real things. We've accomplished real things, and we want to say thank you. But I can go on forever, as you know. Any other state representative or the mayor, do you want to say any few words before we? Representative Vargas, how are you?
I'm going to compete with Andy because he's sitting on his porch and he can see the.
Yeah, he's look at the view. Mr. Speaker, why are you and I in the offices and they're all looking out there beautiful outdoors?
Yeah, right.
Hey, my wife's an educator and we're doing the hybrid model. So this has become my temporary office, the balcony here. So,
yeah,
Mr.
I've got
Speaker,
my kids upstairs pounding on my head. So I'm hoping nobody can hear that too. Go ahead, Andy. I will cede the floor to you as my elder.
Thank you, Rep. Bevilacqua, and thank you, Joe, for putting this together. Speaker DeLeo, thank you as always for showing up. And I really just want to commend you for three main things. One is process, right? I think we were one of the first chambers in the country to be able to set up remote access, to be able to vote and keep government open and get things going. And so I think that's such an important piece. We don't get any of the other things without process being good. So thank you and your team for taking process seriously and making sure that an equitable system was set up for reps across the Commonwealth. And then secondly, substance. We've done real things, real outcomes for real people. All the things that you mentioned, from listening to our small businesses, making sure that they have the relief that they deserve, to authorizing the funds that the governor gets to cut the checks for, but we authorize and make sure that we get out to the communities. Protecting Chapter 70. I can't illustrate how impressive it was that despite a $5 to $7 billion deficit, we were able to hold the line on Chapter 70 and even see a little bit of an increase. That is just tremendous and unprecedented, I think, across the country. Haverhill in itself, we're getting an additional $5 million in Chapter 70 over last year in the middle of a pandemic. That is just incredible. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that. And then lastly, you, in addition to paying attention to all the high level things, you and your team have been very receptive to the district specific things. Here in Haverhill, as you know, Brooks Brothers pulled out and we lost 400 jobs. And we're in the process of trying to recuperate the tax breaks that they got, particularly because they didn't provide severance to their workers while they did provide severance to their top level executives. And in the climate change legislation that we passed, we ensured that there was language in there to create jobs in gateway cities related to clean energy. And so our hope is, as we start to lose these jobs, investments like that can make sure that we can replace them with clean energy jobs that are good for everybody. So I just hats off to you and your team, Speaker DeLeo, for process, for substance, and for paying attention to each and every district.
Andy, I just want to mention before Christina speaks, the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce is the most awarded Chamber of Commerce in the state. We actually received the New England-wide award from an organization that represents 14 states for our clean energy program. It was a pilot program. It was nothing else like it in the country. And Michael, if you're still on, I think we saved companies back then. It was estimated to save them $30 million in operating costs, which they then could use to put back in their workforce to improve the skills and hire more people. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. So I just want to let you know that we appreciate all you've done. And Representative Vargas, thank you so much for being there and being part of it. So we have Christina and then Representative Wynn. Christina, so Representative Minicucci.
Hi. So yeah, Joe gets to call me Christina because he's known me since I was probably like knee high. So known me for a really long time. So, I love going after Andy because Andy is just amazing at summing everything up so perfectly and succinctly. So, I'm embarrassing him over there. But, I wanted to give you a shout out, Mr. Speaker, because not only do you manage to bring all of us together for probably the first time since February as a delegation, so thank you for that. But when you talk about those local issues that have come up, you and your COVID response team, which I'm not sure how much everyone knows, but that COVID response team that you created with the House and the Senate, they have been amazing at helping us with every single little issue that has come up on a local level. We reach out and they turn it around so quickly, and coordinating weekly meetings for us with the secretary, with Secretary Sutters, as well as other members of the executive team, has really made a difference in us being able to get back to our constituents very quickly. When we had the hotspot issues in Lawrence, they were immediately on it, made sure that we were getting the testing that we needed in Lawrence. Anytime I have had a question, I have been able to get it turned around quickly. And I find that to be the most impressive part of this whole process. There's so much chaos, so much information coming forward and it changing all the time. But the team that you assembled for the House of Representatives was just so effective and quick at making sure that we were able to get very quick answers and accurate information out to our constituents. And to me, that has made all the difference. Also, anytime anything wasn't working well, they immediately turned around and made sure that they changed what they were doing and were very, very quick. And that is made with all of our unemployment claims, with all of our small business issues. It has really made life a lot better for us here in the Merrimack Valley. And that is directly attributable to you and how the process, as Sandy put it out there, the process that you put in place for us. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you.
Representative Nguyen wants to say a few words, then Representative Devis, then we have Mayor Ferrantini. And then we'll take questions from the viewers and for our attendees.
The mayor actually put his hand up first. I would like to defer to the mayor because I didn't want to skip in line.
All right, Mayor Ferrantini.
Aren't you nice, Representative Nguyen? Reps come before mayors, especially when we're talking to the speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to welcome you back to this area. I'm in my office, Mr. Speaker.
You're always so kind to me.
And with a picture of Italy in back of me, where the town where my grandfather came from, to always remind me every day that we're a nation of immigrants. I don't want to speak long. Everybody's saying same thing, but I want to thank you for standing by local aid. This was a really big deal. I want to echo what our great young representative Vargas said, that standing by local aid is a really big deal to us. He mentioned that Chapter 70 went up by $5 million. Unrestricted local aid also went up by, I don't remember the amount, $1.5 million, somewhere in that range. That allowed us to avoid any layoffs, any furloughs. We're actually going to be settling with a number of our unions, always a challenge, particularly in a pandemic. So thank you for doing that. I look forward to seeing you next year in person. Thanks,
Good.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. And I thank you for the kind words, but those representatives who are on with you, they deserve as much, if not more, the credit than I do.
Well, thank you very much for mentioning that. We have a great legislative team, Representative Vargas, the dean of our delegation, Representative Linda Dean Campbell, and Lenny Mera, who's not online, and they all do a great job. We have some representatives who don't represent Haverhill who are here too. They do a great job too. Representative Nguyen and my old pal Marcos Devis. So thanks, Mr. Speaker, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, by the way, Brian Dempsey says hello.
Okay.
I talked to him a couple of days ago.
Representative Nguyen.
Thank you. And so echoing everyone, thank you to the Chamber for giving us this opportunity. I missed the lunch, though, I have to say, scarfing down my lunch before this meeting. But the Speaker, thank you.
Stay tuned. As soon as they let us go and we're going back, we'll be back.
I look forward to it. But also the speaker for being here and really updating everyone on the state of our economy in the state. And what you just said earlier of the 3 battles that really resonated with me, the pandemic in terms of the health and safety of our people, our first responders, economic recovery, really making sure that we're taking care of our workers and small businesses, but also the emphasis on racial justice. And I think that's just so key that that's something you prioritize, and it means a lot as someone who's looking to represent this area, making a more welcoming place for all. Your emphasis on this really speaks volumes that you truly care about all the people of the Merrimack Valley and throughout the Commonwealth. And for that, I truly thank you. And I'm just so grateful to be serving with the amazing delegation here and being able to rely on them as one of the newest members of this delegation. And, you know, you all know I have a lot of questions, and I'm not afraid to ask. And I'm very thankful for all of you for indulging me. And every time I reach out for any help, and I can always rely on you all, and especially the Speaker's office, to get us the information that we need to make sure that we are taking care of our constituents. And so I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Representative Devers, I think, is on as well. Marcus, are you there? I know he had difficulty connecting.
No.
There he is.
There we go.
I'm unmuted now. Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I didn't recognize you. You got a great look now.
Yeah, you know, a little bit.
I didn't want to say anything. But.
Yeah, you're not only you know, the most dynamic chamber leader in the nation, all right, but you are definitely a great friend of all the community.
Thank you.
And I would like to share also that also I'm very proud and grateful to be part of this great delegation, the extended delegation in the Merrimack Valley, and also so proud to be working with all of you, partners in government and partners in the private sector. And definitely, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, by the way.
I know.
And also, but all the things that we do for our communities, all the resources that we bring, thanks to the great leadership, the wise and balanced leadership of my great friend, Robert DeLeo, Bud DeLeo, who's been, I think, the best speaker ever in Massachusetts. and who knows? So I'm so proud to share with you this and continue working with this great team. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Well, I believe.
Can I just say one other thing?
Absolutely.
Joe?
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Speaker.
One other thing. I think what you just heard, and I don't mean some of the accolades, verifies what I said earlier about you having the, can you give me a glass of water? Excuse me one second.
No problem. We're going to take questions in a moment.
What I had stated earlier about the delegation from the most veteran members who have served here for a number of years. And I think that you heard from 3 of the newer members who I think spoke so eloquently, and I don't mean to praise me, but in terms of their ability to understand their district and how to address the issues in their district.
Absolutely.
Their wisdom extends far beyond their ages. And I just, what you just heard, again, nothing about what I do, but their concerns for the, I think just speaks volumes.
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we're so fortunate here, because they work together so well. I mean, that's critical. And I talked to other chambers around New England and around our state. That doesn't happen in other areas. And so we're very, very fortunate that our representatives work so well together. And we get things done. They get things done for us. So what we'd like to do is, Mr. Speaker, we have some members of our chamber that are able to join us. And sure. Rayanne, how are we going to filter the questions? Do we go with Ken Adams first from Newburyport?
Yep, right before he speaks, because he unmuted himself, we had a message from somebody who had to leave,
Okay.
and she was just thanking everyone for all of their hard work day in and day out and saying that everybody is fantastic. So I just wanted to pass that message along. And Ken has unmuted himself, so he can ask you his question.
All right, Ken.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm Ken Adams. I'm a local business in Newburyport, Adams Imaging Systems, and a proud member of the Merrimack Valley Chamber. And I just wanted to speak up and thank you, Speaker, for all the work you do and all the representatives. You're right. It's nice to have a team like yourself working for us as citizens and small business owners in the Commonwealth. So I can't say enough about the good and reiterate what everybody's saying about Joe and his team. Michael, all of them. I've been ecstatic about the chamber and what they do. And they're true leaders. They do it with a lot of excitement, and they're doing it from their heart. And for me as a small business owner, it helps keep me going too and motivated. I mean, to know they can filter down through a lot of these programs that the state offers and put it in a layman's terms and help us and assist us as business owners. I did take advantage of the PP loan there, and it helped us, got us through. And, business has picked up a little, and we deal with a lot of essential type businesses where we're an office equipment dealer. So we're in the medical offices, the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants. And, they've been very supportive to us as a small business too. So keep up the good work, and thank you all. And Jimmy Kelcourse just texted me and said to say hi to you. He's a good friend of mine here in Newburyport, and he's working hard on his campaign. But
good.
Thanks again.
Thank you for the kind words.
Mr. Speaker, I just want you to know Cal Williams, who's our chairman of the Government Affairs Committee, along with Sal DeFranco, who you've met before, and Ken Adams work together with us on our Veterans Assistance Program. We have a real program that helps veterans and their families, both men and women veterans, housing, healthcare, jobs, job training, all those types of programs. So we're trying to cover all our bases in terms of helping our veterans. Rayanne, do we have any other questions?
With Chair Campbell, you got a great advocate.
Oh, she's our leader. Are you kidding? She, in fact, she got our first ever Veterans Assistant Award because of her leadership on veterans. And she knows that whenever we call upon her, Representative Campbell is critically important to us in terms of the veterans programs. So thank you.
Thank you.
Rayanne, any other questions or?
Representative Campbell unmuted herself, so I don't know if she wanted to say
I'm
anything.
good. I'm good.
Okay, so
Rayanne, I just wanted to say this is Mike Bevilacqua with the Merrimack Valley Chamber. I just want to thank the speaker for joining us today, and I want to thank the speaker and all the representatives for all their hard work and being there for our area small businesses, especially during this pandemic. So just thank you for all your help and support.
And I just want to say before we close, I want to reiterate what Michael said, but I want you to know that our small business, I've never seen our small business community hit as hard as they have during this pandemic. And I can just imagine how much worse it would have been, Mr. Speaker and representatives, if it wasn't for your leadership and your support. And I mean that in all sincerity. There has never been you couldn't go back and understand what to do. So you had to create it as we went forward, as you all went forward. And I know that you've made a difference in the small business community. And also the small business community are not just businesses, they're husbands and wives, family members, sons and daughters, and its families. So you've made a difference not only in the business community, but in their families as well. And I just want to say thank you on all of our members' behalfs. And thank you for all you've done. And Mr. Speaker, once again, and representatives, thank you again for being with us. It makes a huge difference. Let me tell you, we will have people that'll tell us that they saw this on Facebook, they saw this in the social media program. They'll tell us, I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have seen it. And I'll tell them that you'll be back, if that's okay.
Representative Vargas, you unmuted yourself. Did you have something?
Oh yeah. Well, while I have the floor, Mr. Speaker, you said we're young, but I just turned 27 this month. Okay, so I had my first drink. Okay,
you're young. Buddy.
No, but in all seriousness, I just wanted to uplift a comment that Rep. Wynn made about social and racial justice in this moment. I don't know if folks have seen the Hamilton play, but there's a song that goes, "History has its eyes on you." And history has its eyes on us right now. And Speaker DeLeo, you are answering to that call, and we are all responding to that call with courage, because we know that history will be looking back about what and finding out what we did with this moment and how we capitalized on it. So thank you for your leadership and responding to history.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Thank you for your
Mr.
hard
Speaker, do you
work.
have a final word before we end, or?
Most important thing I think I can say, and is for everyone, stay healthy. For all I know, all the reps know this, but you know, we're here during this time. I said at the end, I firmly believe we're Massachusetts, and we're going to come out on top.
Thank you.
I really
Thank you,
firmly
Mr. Speaker.
believe that.
Thank you to our state representatives
That's
as
what our
well.
state's all about.
You know, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we wish you all a great day, and we look forward to continuing to work together. And I want to say thank you to the members that watched and participated, and thank you to the speaker, and thank you to our state representatives. And again, Mr. Speaker, we will be in contact with our state representative delegation tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. And under your leadership, I know that we'll be able to accomplish a great deal. And if you could just consider those grants once again, that would be great.
Thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you all.
you,
And
pal.
again, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We truly event, and we'll welcome you back. We'll have a great Italian lunch for you.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Nice job, guys.
Thank you, Cal, our
Yeah.
Chairman, Government Affairs.
Thanks, Joe.